Hi everyone, welcome and thank you for joining our webinar series on the best practices for structuring services at core facilities. In this webinar, we'll be discussing how calendars can encode workflows and how to make the best approaches to optimize time and resource usage. So taking into account that some scheduling systems are not comprehensive enough to allow you to build the best workflows for your facility, or fast responding to your commands leading to frustration and time waste, or even not very clean and user-friendly, I would like to invite you to take a peek through Agendo's workflows to show you how comprehensive, fast, flexible, and user-friendly it is, enabling you to encode and optimize the workflows you want. So, how can you encode your workflows using Agendo scheduling system? Let's begin by assuming the following scenario. At the flow cytometry and histopathology facilities, I have 5 calendars: a cell culture hood, Faxaria and MoFlow sorters, an LSR Fortessa flow cytometer, and a microtome. Now, I want the cell culture hood to be a simple equipment which my users can use alone, assuming that they all know how to use a flow hood and how to keep it clean. So I don't want any restrictions here. So let's call it Book at Ease. For the Faxaria and MoFlow, I want to allow my users to book them freely, but each reservation must be confirmed by me previously, since I will be the one operating the equipment and I need to be there. So we will call it You Need Me There. Note that Faxaria and MoFlow are both sorters, so we can say that they are similar resources. For the LSR Fortessa, I do not intend to be there, but I want to keep track of its usage. So it will be a idle all your moves. The microtome, on its turn, is not to be used for users, only by the staff, but I want to keep track of the time that I dedicate using it for each of the user's tasks. So this one will be mine. So these are my requirements, and to follow the workflows that I intend, the way I need to configure my equipments are: the Book at Ease resources will be configured as regular reservations. And the way we do this is under Configurations. We edit the calendar or create a new calendar. And on the status of each calendar, we just set it for the ones we want, in this case regular reservation. And that's it. Now this is transversal for any calendar. The first time that a user wants to use the calendar, they need to ask for permission. This way. Me as a manager, I will receive a notification, and after I grant the permission for the user to use my calendar, they can now, in this case, start booking for any time they want, just by drag and drop on the calendar. Next, for the You Need Me There workflows, these resources will be configured as pre-reservation with admin confirmation, in the same way. Then I'm also going to define Faxaria and MoFlow as similar resources, and you will later understand why this is interesting. For the similar resources, I will have to define this configuration on both of them. Afterwards, when users come to make a booking, they first make a pre-reservation, and in this case I've configured this form for them to provide me with information that I need to operate. And then I will be notified that their booking needs approval. So after I confirm it, the reservation is good to go. You can see that these reservations are color-coded, and in this case yellow means that it's pending confirmation and the confirmed reservations are green. Next, the I Know All Your Moves calendars will be configured as pre-reservation with real-time tracking confirmation, where the users make a pre-reservation and it is a software that makes the booking confirmation and tracking. To set this up, you just have to insert the computer name under the configurations and install a Pgina program. As you can see, this is the way it looks like when the bookings are done. And when we overlay the real usage, it appears in gray, and the red slots of user B here are bookings that were unconfirmed, meaning that they made the reservation but they did not show up. There's yet another calendar which I don't want my users to book or see the other users' information, and that's the microtome. The microtomy is a sectioning technique that requires the technician's expertise to make perfect sections, so I cannot afford to train all my users as it will be very time and resource consuming. So it's only me and the staff who use the equipment, but I would like to charge my users for the time that I've spent on each of their tasks. So, not to allow users to book the resource, I will keep it blocked under the configurations. I can also associate a message to it to warn users in advance. To keep my reservations private, I will hide the personal user's details, and I will also create a customized form with the user request ID, which I will need to fill in when I make a reservation. Then I know to which tasks each booking corresponds. So in this specific case, I will just have to make a booking on the behalf of the user with the corresponding time and insert their task ID. This way, users can still access and view the calendar, but they cannot make a booking or view the other user personal details. However, if I do not want users to see the calendar at all, so this information is only for my facility, I can hide the calendar, and thus only users to whom I directly grant permission to access the calendar can see it, but they can still not book it because it is blocked. Last, if I am not alone at the facility, I can also add my fellow managers to the calendar and their intervenients, or parties involved. This way, they are granted the same managing privileges as me, including being notified of any reservations, although, because I am the admin, it's only me who can edit the configurations. So, with this workflow flexibility, you get to make plenty of tweaks to satisfy your whims and make you happy and productive, granting you more time to later dedicate to something else that needs your attention. Now, everything seems fine with my calendars, but for the Book at Ease calendar, I'm starting to notice that some users are making bookings for far too long, not sharing the resource with other scientists, and are not really respecting the good usage practices. So now I need to impose some limitations. I still want them to make regular bookings, but I do not want them to stay there for too long, and I want them to read the good practices documentation before usage and acknowledge it. So now I will make it book at ease, but not at sloppy ease. Let's break it down. I first want to associate a document to the calendar where all good practices are stated. So I will create a note with it like this, with a link that will be shared with all my resource users, and I will attach a PDF document as well that they can access. Then, under the configurations of the calendar, I will just have to attach it to the calendar. Like this. Then, keeping it regular reservation, I will add booking restrictions and an acknowledgement checkbox form for the users to consent regarding the good practices. Afterwards, I will also want to make them aware of these changes first thing before they make a booking. So under the calendar, I will place an announcement that will stay on the top of the calendar with important information. Like this. I can also notify users directly or not. So now, when users come to make a booking, they will realize straight away that they cannot book past the time restrictions that I've set, and they are required to read the documentation. So when they go to the information button of the calendar to learn more about the equipment they're about to use, they realize there's a lot of information, including the note that I want them to read. So once they read it, they can now consciously proceed with the booking. However, I was so cool with the IDs part of this resource usage that I let users book it without me being there. One morning, I came to the lab and I found that I had a notification saying you have one open issue. How was this issue created? Well, a user called staff came to his slot and found the workbench dirty and messy. Believing that it was the previous user's negligence, he clicks her slot and reports a user negligence issue. Having requested a follow-up on this incident, they can also have access to it on their issue tracking tab. So me, as a manager, after reading it, I can see the details of the user associated to it, and after solving it, I close the issue and decide to take control of these situations by tightening the opening schedule to my working hours under the configurations. So I set the start time to 9:30 and end time to 5:30 and take the weekends off. Now you can see that the calendar is restricted only for the time that I've set. However, I do know users like this staff user that are well behaved and take the most profit of using my facilities out of working hours when no one is around to distract them. So this wouldn't be really fair or flexible unless I grant them access permissions. Here's all the permissions that we have on Agendo, which you can grant to each user depending on their level of expertise and your trusts. Going back to our case, user staff will be set as a power user for the cell culture wood calendar, and user Claudia will be set on training. I don't have to worry about staff, but every time Claudia makes a booking, which is now restricted to my labor hours, I will be notified. Now I will have to enable and configure the power user privileges under the configurations of my resource. In this case, by setting no time restrictions, booking on weekends, and also adding a 30% discount out of business hours only. So now, from the user's perspective, they can view which permissions they have for each resource under their profile, and then on the calendar, they can book out of working hours with no restriction, and they can still see under costs the discount of their booking that was applied because they were a power user. The user in training will be restricted to book only for the maximum time per slot under the scheduling tolerance, and every time they make a booking, this key will appear. That means that an assistance was requested because they are in training. So an automatic message appears to the manager as well as a notification. It's possible to define different prices and discounts on different situations and people. So you can define different prices for different user type, add an external reference which can then be used to make bulk updates in prices, add a fee to be charged upon release the booking, charge assistance or not, and then add happy hour discounts, which are special schedules which can have special price discounts too. Another place to define prices can be under the fields where you can, for example, charge for consumables. Then you can add as well a shared tool. And the advantage of this is that when one calendar is using this tool, the other one will automatically be blocked because it's already used and it's shared. To do so, you have to configure the calendars as similar and accept the integration of this shared tool. As an example, if I choose to select this shared component to use on Faxaria, when any other user goes to the similar resource, in this case MoFlow, to book a slot for the same hours, they can see straight away that the shared component X, in this case, is in use for Faxaria. So if they try to use it, it's not possible, but they can still proceed with the booking. Now, let's move for one last scenario. Imagine that you are hosting a course that will happen every Monday for 3 months. You need to book a room for the lectures, but instead of making the same booking 12 times, you can just make one booking and set it to recurrent, like this, defining the end time and the tab. Yet for this course, you will also need to reserve some of your equipments to be used in the first day, let's say as a guided tour. So instead of going to each equipment one by one and make a reservation, you can join these calendars in a calendar group under the configurations. So in this case, all the calendars of the flow cytometry facility. And then just go and make a bulk booking for all the resources that are going to be used at the same time. Afterwards, confirm that everything is available, fill in any form necessary, and you're done. Bulk bookings can be used in many scenarios and by any user as well. So here you can confirm that the booking was done and it's pinned. Okay, users, how about you? What do you have to do to use the resources that you want? An easy way to know what to expect from a calendar is by reaching the information button. There you can see all the information the manager set for the calendar and any important note for you to read. Then, as we've seen before, you can make a booking just with 2 clicks and fill in any form necessary. You can ask for assistance and leave a message. You can also share your booking with other users, and this is good to share information. You can make recurrent bookings as well and see how much your booking is going to cost. Then after your booking is done, you can still edit it and check the details. You can attach any notes or SOPs to it, and this is good to keep all the data and metadata together in the same place for long-term storage. Then you can report incidents as well, which go to the issue tracking tab. See who's on the waiting list for that slot and any comment associated to it. Now, I have mentioned a waiting list, but what does a waiting list mean? In heavily used calendars, every cancellation is a usage opportunity, so whoever sees it first takes it. But with Agendo, you don't have to be forever on top of the calendar. If you click on another user slot that you're interested in, you find 2 buttons, waiting list and subscribe. If you place yourself in waiting list, the slot will change to blue, and it means that if the slot is deleted, you will automatically take it. If you subscribe to the slot, you will be notified if any updates are made to it, and if you subscribe to a calendar, you will be notified whenever booking updates are made to the whole calendar. Another option to check availabilities is by shifting between similar calendars, which you can see here, where the managers have associated 2 calendars together, and thus by navigating between calendars you can see that, for example, here Faxaria is booked from 10 to 12:30, but MoFlow is available, so if you want to do an experiment, you can do it using MoFlow in that time slot. Now imagine you have booked the whole day for Delta Vision, but in that morning you find that your cells are not viable to proceed, so you need to cancel your booking. At this point you have 2 options, either contact the manager to cancel your booking or be independent. Let's leave the manager's contact for last resource, yes? So your first choice is to be independent, and when you click on the slot to delete it, you find that there are 3 options: release, update, and transfer, and that the delete button disappeared. This is because you passed the delete tolerance, so you try to update the slot, but you cannot because you passed the delete tolerance. If you release the slot, which is similar to delete, you may be charged with a booking fee, so you will attempt a transfer booking to someone that might accept it. You can also tick the option to release the slot in case they do not accept it, so that you are not fully charged with it. This way you manage to take responsibility for your slot, not being dependent on the manager's actions. Now, to show you how it works, the other user will be notified, and if they choose to accept your transfer, the slot will automatically be theirs. Just to finish and show you how all this can look like, on your home page, you can view your upcoming reservations under My Events, and then have an overview of the bookings that you manage and your own bookings so that you don't get lost. You can also integrate all your bookings with Google Calendar by placing a link and making the integration. Agendo's system is also responsive. This means that it can be used in practically any mobile device. In a nutshell, this is pretty much what we had planned to show you in this webinar. Using Agendo, I hope you could learn about some strategies that could be used to address some of the most common situations and understand the way calendars can encode your workflow by setting it to regular reservation, pre-reservation with admin confirmation, with real-time tracking, blocked or hidden, the simplicity of the act of making a reservation and many other useful features, the configurability of almost every process and permission flexibility, which can always be further developed to suit your needs, the booking management and interactions between manager-user and user-user so that users can also handle their bookings without the manager intervention according to pre-established rules, and the clean and responsive overview of all bookings. Thank you so much for attending and for your interest in this topic. I hope that it could be useful to you and that you may benefit from what you've learned here, increasing your productivity as research professionals. Thank you once again. I hope to see you on the next webinar, and I would be happy to take any questions you might have now.